Hello everyone, welcome back. So what I want to do now is talk a little bit about baking materials. So I have this object here that is several objects actually. It's the frame, and then I got each piece of glass separate. They all have a different material. The door itself has some metalness and roughness associated with it, as well as a color. And then the glass for the door are just glass, all the same parameters, but different colors. So I want this whole thing to all be one object and to have one UV map that is associated with everything, or well, several different combined UV maps, I should say, because it's going to have what we call a transmission, which is the clarity of the glass. It's going to have a roughness, how shiny things are map. It's going to have a metalness map and a diffuse map. So those four maps, but they will have the full object on those four maps. So how do we do that is we're going to use a program called SimpleBake. So SimpleBake is not really a program, I'm sorry, it's an add-on to this program, Blender. And you can find it by going to the Blender Marketplace. So if I go to Blender Marketplace and I search up SimpleBake, you'll find it. It's $20. I think there might be a student discount. You just search for SimpleBake here. But it's not a requirement to do this by any means. This is just something that is pretty professional and allows for combining meshes into one object, which is not 100% necessary, but is kind of handy in a lot of circumstances. The circumstances being when you have an object like this, that you want it to be one object that has different parts that you want to combine all together with different materials and have it all be really cohesive. It's great for if you wanted to put something like this on a marketplace or something like that. You can have all of the textures and UV maps all combined together. It's also great for transferring this between Rhino or between Blender and the Unreal Engine. And it's also great for materials that have a lot of parameters to them, meaning if you have the shading maps here and say like you've got a floor and you're using tiling and mapping and vectors and you've got all kinds of stuff on the material itself, it will bake all of those parameters into the UV map, which is really nice. But it is more of a convenience thing, and it does take some processing, and it can be a little bit frustrating. So yeah, this is not going to be for everyone, but I really think that it is a very powerful thing to do. So let's go ahead and do it. So first things first is we're going to join this whole object together as one object. Right now it is about 20 parts. So if I go Control J, it's going to then move them all onto one object. And so now when I Control J, I clicked on it. Now it's all one object. And then if I go to, let's see, the name of the object here, which would be, where's that? Well, I can look at it in the materials window here as well. It's called glass door underscore 1115. And I might want to change the name of that, which I can do later. So yeah, I've got it all as one piece. Great. Seems like everything's good, except for when you go to the UV maps. If I go here and then hit A to grab everything, you can see all of the objects are piled on top of each other because it just combined all those UV maps and layered them on top of each other. That is not good. It looks fine here, but it's not going to look fine if I bring it into another program until we bake it. So you can see all the materials are over here that are going to be baked onto one. So how do you add the add-on? You go up to Edit, Preferences, Add-ons, and then you go to Install, and you find that .zip folder that you downloaded from the Blender Marketplace. And you don't unzip it, you just install the zip itself, and then you go to SimpleBake, which you can search for, and you check it to put it on. And yeah, so that's how you add this. I've already added mine. And then you come over to the rendering settings here and scroll down to here. After you reopen the program, you got to close the program, reopen it, and then now you should be able to bake things. So by default, all of these are going to be collapsed. I'm going to go ahead and open them up. This is a setting preset. I can save a new preset and save it as my favorite. I can do all kinds of stuff, and I'm going to probably save this as a preset just so I don't mess things up in the future. Okay, so bake objects. Click on this, and with this object selected, I hit add. It's all glass door 115. Great. And then the maps that I'm going to be using are the diffuse, the roughness and glossiness, the transmission, the metalness. I don't need normal. Normal is if you have like a roughness texture or something built into it. emission if you've got something light, bump map if you use that instead of a normal map, alpha if you've got like you're doing some fencing or something where you want to have transparent layers so that you can optimize things that way. But what I'm using for this is the glass, which is transparency, which and glossiness, the door, which is going to be the metalness, and the diffuse, which is the colors. Okay, so those are the maps that are going to be baked. And then I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to have this be 2K. Thinking that's good enough. You can bump that up or down just by hitting an up button or a down button. I want none of this selected. I want that good. Okay, I'm going to export bakes, and I'm going to export the mesh. And then I'm going to export the bakes as a PNG, and I'm going to export the mesh as an FBX object. Create a folder if you don't already have one in a reliable place where you know it is, and I call it bakes usually. Okay. And then make sure it's not 16-bit. You don't need 16-bit, and the Unreal Engine only works with 8-bit. So if you're taking this into Unreal, it'll mess everything up if you use the 16-bit on the bakes. Title it something. I'm going to call it Fancy Door Left. I want new UV maps. That's going to fix all my UV maps. And then I want to set a UV map boundary of 0.001, which is going to give a little space between the objects on the map. And okay, this all looks good. This all looks good. Then save. Make sure you save right now because sometimes, depending on your computer, it will crash. And I can do a background. So if I wanted to still work on my project, I can do it in the background depending on how your hardware is. And then when you're ready to go, you just hit this, bake. And you'll see at first it tells you what it's doing. It's creating nodes and blah, blah, blah. And then it's going to start highlighting individual parts of this object as it makes a complete map of, now it's doing, I believe, the diffuse here, right? And it says where it's putting it. And it's putting it there. This is the metalness of the object. And I'm hoping that there's not going to be any bleeding over because I've only got a 0.003 or 0.01. Yeah, so we'll have to check the map to see if there's anything funky about it when we get it back in here. Okay, so now it's done. Great. All complete. Now all I got to do is, yes, hit tab here and watch. Still the same old UV map. But the good news is I can either put this in a folder and save it for later, or I can just hit the delete button. I usually like to put it in a new folder here, just because, you've got a new collection. I can add another collection here. New collection. And then in here, I'm going to find my object. Where are you? Fancy door. Actually, I'm first going to actually undo. There we go. No. I can't undo it. Okay, so I don't want this to be all joined together. Anyway, I'm going to just delete it for now. I can bring it back if I need to. Hopefully it doesn't crash. It's a file. Then I'm going to import an FBX file, and I'm going to go find under my bakes folder my Fancy Door FBX here. Import it, and there we go. So let's go now over to our shading parameters here. And you can see all of our bakes are now in our areas here. So we have a metallic in the roughness section. We have we have a roughness map, we have a metallic map, we have the normal map doesn't matter here, And then we have our diffuse map. And our transmission, we do not have our map bin here yet. That is a problem. Did I not select it to make it? Let's see. We got to pull this in here. Open bakes. There it is. Open. Okay. So for some reason, it didn't pull in my transmission map. But you can see all of these are basically image textures that are then brought in to our project here. So when we export it, all of these will also export with it, which is great. So yeah, that's basically simple baking to make maps for an object you want to join all together. And that's going to be really important on something like a door here, where I want this to all be one object in the Unreal Engine so I can animate it to make it open and shut. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and finish simple baking the rest of my doors, and that's basically all I have to simple bake on this one. So thank you very much. Hopefully you found this informative.